What's up, guys? Today I'm getting ready to install the 6.0 transmission cooler of my 99 F350. This transmission cooler I have was already in another vehicle that had an untimely demise. It was another 99, so I've been stripping it for parts. So today I'm going to see if I can get this transmission cooler put in this truck here. Haven't had any problems with the transmission temperature. I haven't pulled the load with it yet. The highest temperatures I've been reading is 167 degrees, but I know once I go to pulling a load on a hot day, I'm going to need a little extra help. Alright, so this thing had a transmission cooler, and it's way down, buried under here between the condenser and the intercooler. I don't know if you can see it all the way down there near the bottom. It ain't very big. It's probably only about 6 inches wide, or 6 inches tall, I should say. Whereas this one right here is like a good 20 some odd inches tall. So it's quite a difference. Not only that, there's also ports on the radiator. It's not the factory radiator. The radiator's been replaced. We've got these connections where we can have the there's one over there and the other one is right there. So we'll take and run the transmission fluid through the bottom of the radiator first, but the water's relatively cool down there compared to the temperature of transmission. It pulls a lot of the heat out real quick, and after it goes through that radiator coil down there, we'll run it through the 6.0 transmission cooler and then back to transmission, and it makes a huge difference. So first thing we got to do is get this cover off right here. I'm not going to bore you with having to watch that, so I'll be right back. Alright, now we have this cover off here. Now we can see down in here, get an idea just how small that thing is. It's just down there at the very bottom of the, actually below the level of the radiator. This thing is pretty small. It's between the condenser coil and the intercooler. So next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this bumper off. It's gonna make it a lot easier to get to the connections where I need to make those. Alright, next thing I got to do, I'm going to get this just a power steering cooler, get it out of the way. There's 2 screws on there, and then we got the 2 lower screws, and there's 2 upper screws for the transmission cooler. I'm going to have to get them out of the way. Alright, so we got it loose. There's one of my connections. The other connection is kind of hidden back up in there. See it right there. Now it's not going to come out any further. We're going to have to break that loose and then catch the drips, whatever it's going to be come running out. Little snake in our hand in there to get that one connection, or both of those connections broke loose, and we get that coil all the way out. These hoses aren't going to be used. They're going to be cut. To get in there to that connection, I had to remove both brackets for the condenser. Didn't disconnect the lines, but I've got it kicked up enough so that I can get my hand in here to get that loose. I've got it broke loose, but it's no problem to get in there with a wrench and get that thing out. Catch bucket on both sides here to catch whatever comes out of this thing. The coil is full, obviously. Won't be very much coming out of the lines. Only keep the lines from sagging down too low. But I will be cutting the lines, but I want to keep as much of that hose as I can. It's good hose. It's too hard to do this with holding this camera, so I'm gonna put y'all up. All right, a little bit of a bind on that fitting there, but we got it. Snip this thing out of here. Locked myself getting it out. Trying to keep this transmission, the power steering cooler from getting all loaded up with transmission fluid. Okay, so that thing's still in the hole there just a little bit. There we go. All right. Crank it out some. Imagine air hose would kind of speed this up a little bit. So I'm gonna so let's show a comparison here, what we're dealing with here. So this old one is about 1/3 of the capacity of the cooler that comes with a 6.0. The 6.0 has two sizes. I believe this is the 31 inch. I'm not 100% sure. This may be the next size smaller, but far better than what it was. Plus, we'll be going through the radiator. That's going to provide most of the cooling before it ever even gets to that transmission cooler. So I'm gonna have to snake these hoses out from under here. We've got these two lines here that's connected up to hoses, and I want to take and cut those hoses as long as I can. I don't need these lines for anything. You can reuse these ends. These is the same end that will go into a transmission, so you can save them. You may need them for something. They won't fit the, I don't believe they fit the radiator. I'll have to double check. I'll let y'all know. Okay, so we got obviously got this thing out. I've just stood it up here for a second. Now, this line here is one that I made for my red truck. Red truck back here, which didn't pass the stress test, I'll put it that way. This is the fitting that goes in this coil right here. This is a fitting that's going to go into the radiator. If the 99 did not come with a connection on the radiator, but if the radiator's been replaced, the newer models had this water cooling first for the transmission cooler. They have the coil in there, so if you've replaced that transmission or somebody else replaced it, it's going to have a connection there, and I highly recommend going through that first. But it does take a different fitting. This line here, I believe I tried the last time. It will not. It's not going to push that fitting all the way up. It'll thread in there, same thread. It just doesn't have this additional piece right here to put it in there. I'll try to find that information for that, where I got that fitting, and put that information in the description. Alright, now that we got the coil out of there, lines out of there, this thing has to drop in from the top, and the mounting tabs are going to attach to these angle braces. There's one, I've got the other one out already. I'm going to have to loosen this one up. This is going to have to come off also. We just have to take these two screws out and rotate it out of the way. That coil will drop in from the top, and it's going to sit right here in these original locations here. So we can just put the screws back in there and let that thing set on there. I remember right, it's the same width. So anyway, let's see if we can get that thing in there. I already had these hoses. These hoses were already set up on the other truck, so I did not disconnect them. Go over the connections when we get it all put together. All right, managed to do it without dropping anything. I think I remember how that thing attaches to those angle bars. Let's see. Oh yeah, now I remember. Okay. So down here, like I said, it's going to sit back. Point to the right thing. It's going to sit the same hole locations as the original one did, and then it has these here. Almost looks like I've got something in backwards. I'm gonna have to double check, see if I see that facing the wrong way. So I believe I've got it in back. Actually, I believe I got it in backwards. Alright, I don't know how well you guys can see this. This is your angle brace, and this is where it attaches here to the frame. This is the coil. These here came off of the original coil off my other truck. So when you take your original coil off, you need to take these off and reuse them, because what's going to happen is we're going to attach this arm back to this frame, and then this is going to be the support for the upper portion of this coil. The screw is going to go right through here, just like the original one. So basically it mounts the same way as the original, it's just a whole lot bigger. Alright, that's that side, and we got this one started already. tight. Tighten the top up. All right, so it's in there. Put this extra coil back where it belongs before I damage it. We all know we'll damage something in a heartbeat if you let us. Alright, so the next thing we have is the lines coming from this cooler. Now, like I said, I already had this thing connected up. I've got some 1/2 inch hose hooked up to the cooler, and then you have to reduce it down to the 3/8 lines. That is for the 4R100 transmission. The 6.0 uses larger lines. So I've got a piece of this this 1/2 inch line, and I have some reducers, and I reduce it down. Now I've already got the fittings on here, but I'm going to show you how I snake this through here, get everything all set up. And I'm actually going to make my connections. I have a pit. I'm going to drive this thing up on the pit. I have to do a little finagling to keep me from losing my transmission fluid, but get this thing set up. Look at how we do these hoses. Now I'm going to bring this back loose. Get these lines back on the other side. Now, I didn't want these lines to be under any kind of pressure, so the frame here curves this way on both sides. So what I did is I come out of these lines and I'm going to let it curve this way and let this one curve that way so they cross. So this is going to lay up in here. Here, they're going to cross each other. I'm going to snake this back past the back of the radiator. Over there. This one is going back over to where the transmission lines connect up. Originally, both of these lines originally came through just one side, but like I said, I didn't want to come down out of here and make that tight turn going back that way. I figured this would be better for the long-term health of these hoses. Oh yeah. Get me some washers. I had some bigger washers on there. This really ain't going anywhere, but let's just see what it looks like. Get a better close look at this for y'all. What we're dealing with here. So, like I said, I didn't want to put this thing in a big bind by running out this hose out that corner, that hose out that corner. So I ran them both past each other. Get that little bit of kicking going on here, but this hose is a lot bigger than what this transmission calls for. So I just let them cross up under here, and they're gonna go back around to the side. I'll cut y'all off here. All right, we're back out here. Got up under my pit, and this is what happens when you're playing with your GoPro instead of watching how your tires are set up on here. Keep meaning to put some black lines in this thing so I know where to keep the tires. We can see it right from the when you're driving. I gotta have to make sure this thing is clean. This thing was plugged. This side here did not have any kind of cap on it. This side did. So there was something in there, a little crusty. Got it out. I'm gonna try blowing the thing out. In fact, the O-ring, this O-ring here, the O-ring on the other side, it fell out on the floor. I've got to go grab it. I'm gonna blow some air through there, and then I'm gonna try putting a little bit of transmission fluid in there and just kind of blow through it just to flush it out before it gets hooked up to my transmission. Maybe here you can see a little bit better these connections. Get the light back. So, like I said, I didn't want to let these things go straight down or try to fit a 90 on there that quick or anything. So it just made sense by curving both of them toward each other. They follow the natural curve of this lower frame member here. And the hoses will go out at opposite corners. That's the way I had it set up on my other truck. Everything seemed to work good. So to get it back here, all I did was take a piece of hose and just looped it back. So I didn't pump all the transmission fluid out. And the time it took me to get over here, and I just secured these lines here. These lines are already set up. This line is already set up to connect to the other side. What I'm thinking about actually doing, I'm gonna blow some air through it. I think I'm gonna hook this line here up and then blow air in here. It'll run whatever transmission fluid is in that cooler out through that other coil, and that should clean it up. So let me get to it. All right, so I've got it poked out, blew out some air. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this line here, goes up into my transmission cooler, one from the 6.0, so there should be some fluid left in it. Going to run back out through this line here into the radiator coil. This side had a plug in it. This side didn't, so I get some dirt daubers, a little bit of mud got up in there. I think I better tighten this down just a little bit, because we're going to blow some air through it, and I'm going to let this run back here into my oil change drum. I want to see that I get some fluid through it. If not, I'm going to put some fluid in it. So I got this hooked up with my air gun, and let's see what we get here. One hand here. Now, I guess I got all the transmission fluid drained out of it. So let me go get some. I'm gonna put some in there and just run it through. Just let it run through everything. All right, so I got it bled out. I had to take a funnel, fill it with a funnel. It took a little while to get some come through. Eventually it started running all the way through. I had the funnel rigged up here in front of my truck. Hang it up here. Had it elevated up there, let it run through, and then I took and blew it out with air, and so whatever was left in there should be pretty clean. So we want to come out of the pressure line and go to the radiator first. Okay, the pressure line on this R4R100 is this top line up here, right there. This line here in the back is the return. So I've got to make sure that I get this top line here, and it looks like it's, you can see it running over there. The top line runs over, and then it runs closer to the block as we get around the front of the engine. And so that is the top line. The top line is going to be my pressure line. So my pressure line is going to connect up to here through this line, go through the radiator where it cools it first using the cooler water that's in the bottom of the radiator. Then this line here goes into the 6.0 cooler. It's actually going into the passenger side of the 6.0 cooler, through it, out the driver's side of the cooler, which is this hose here. And that hose there, I will connect up to this lower line here. So I'm not gonna let y'all watch me struggle doing all that, but I'll let me get to it. Well, all right, we had to run. We had some rain come through, had laundry on the line, dogs were out, tools were out, windows were rolled down. Had to hurry up and get everything all put up before it got too wet. And I see I did put my cover on my oil collection bucket here. Just back. This is a water tank from my well, and I rigged it up with a drain, just the right height for a gallon jug. So and I built this pit myself too, not counting the water. There's 17,000 pounds of materials between the wood and the block, and the mortar mix, and the concrete, and it ain't going nowhere. So let's get up underneath the truck, look everything over. I've got it all put back together. I'm gonna have to get it warmed up and check that level. I expect it to be maybe a quart low, but let's crawl up under here and see what everything looks like. My crew's here to help. All right, so how well y'all can see this. I protected my lines going up from between the two coolers. That's where it goes, ties into the transmission lines. So the one closest to the engine is the pressure port off of the 4R100 transmission, and I've got it running into the water side, the transmission cooler that's built into the your aftermarket type radiators. It's not on the factory original. The 99s did not come with that, so but it certainly makes a big difference. It comes out of there, then that runs back through to the 6.0 cooler. The other side of 6.0 cooler comes out right here and goes back to the rear of the transmission. Now, I don't know if I can get back there from over here, but I do have a temperature probe mounted on the transmission. Let's see if I can see it. Okay, I'm going to come around. It's four-wheel drive. You can't just go from one end of the truck to the other because of that differential. Alright, so on the side of the transmission here, there is a pressure port. I can't tell if y'all can see that or not, but it's fitting right here. So you can take that plug out of there and put a temperature probe in there, and I've got that hooked up to my edge controller. So this gives the hot temperature of the transmission. This is after its transmission fluid has been used and it's going to be pumped out through the system. so it has the heat on it. It runs 10-15 degrees warmer than what's in the pan, and that's the reading that you get, your TFT reading. If you have a controller that's hooked up and can give you that reading. So this gives you a higher temperature reading of what's actually in the transmission. So like I said, I'm gonna have to heat it up, run it a little bit, but I'm really not going to know the effectiveness of how this all works until I get the trailer behind it to load, and a hot summer day, then we'll find out. But it's on there. Oh, let's crank this thing up. So I have this Evolution programmer, and I have a temperature probe for the exhaust gas temperature, and I have one in there for the transmission fluid temperature, which is, like I say, that's off of that port. It gives a much more accurate reading. Alright, so the lower left corner is your transmission temperatures. It says 98.6. Your engine oil temperature is 109. The EGT is at 217. That's all on that left side. I've got my temperatures over there. I have another sensor I'm gonna put in there for my coolant temperature, because all you have in these trucks is the idiot gauge. So it'd be nice to know what the actual coolant temperature is while you're monitoring all these other things. So pull this thing out of the garage so I can close this thing up. The dogs get into everything. It'll take me a while to heat this transmission up. I'm gonna have to go drive it somewhere, and I'll check that fluid. But it's on there. I know it'll make a big difference, because I know what it did on the other truck. So, all right, y'all, take it easy. Bye now.